Welcome into Chicago Bears Now. I am your host, Harrison Graham. Give me a follow on Twitter, @HGrahamNFL. More Bears and NFL news, rumors, updates, and a whole lot more over there. So go check me out on Twitter. Again, it's @HGrahamNFL. Today's show, 5 players the Bears could target in the first round of the 2021 NFL Draft. So let's go ahead and jump on in here. How about quarterback Mac Jones, a player we've talked about quite a bit on this show. I think he's the most realistic quarterback you could draft this year if you are Chicago. Maybe he falls to you at 20. Maybe you have to trade up a little bit for him. But as of now, the Bears continue to search for a quarterback. And I think Mac Jones is the most realistic guy that you're going to be able to try and get in round 1. He continues to rise up draft boards. It's very possible that you would have to trade up for him if you are the Chicago Bears. So keep that in mind. But I do think he's a guy that they should at least have on their radar. I still like the idea of bringing in Mac Jones as this team's quarterback as soon as this year. So we'll see what happens. Until the Bears have a quarterback, we're going to talk about guys they could draft, guys they could sign, guys they could trade for, because as you guys know, the quarterback position is the most prevalent one for the Chicago Bears. Now, here are the top 5 draft prospects for this year. Trevor Lawrence, he's going to the Jags. That's a done deal. We'll see between Wilson and Fields who ends up being that number 2 quarterback. I think that could go either way as of now, but we'll just have to wait and see on that one. Again, I think Trey Lance is going to be a little too rich for the Bears, so we'll see on that one as well. But Mac Jones, I think, is a guy that Chicago could have a chance at getting at number 20 or maybe a little bit higher. We'll just have to wait and see on that one. So, pin comment on today's video. Should the Bears draft a quarterback? You might get hit with a YouTube ad break. If you do, answer this question. Type Y for yes, type N for no. Should the Bears draft a quarterback in 2021? Okay, next up is Christian Darrisaw, the left tackle out of Virginia Tech. Quarterback, offensive tackle, no surprise, that's where we start today's video because those are the biggest needs for the Chicago Bears. Bears need to address tackle this offseason. You cannot roll into next year with Charles Leno and Bobby Massey as your starting 2 tackles, at least in my opinion. Now, Darrisaw, kind of like Mac Jones, may not fall to number 20. He may be a little bit higher, in which you could have to trade up for him or settle for someone else, but I do think he's a player that Chicago should and will have interest in. This offensive line's in an interesting spot because it seemed like they found something on the interior late in the season with Whitehair Mustipher and Alex Bars there at right guard, who's a exclusive rights free agent. I think James Daniels comes back and is one of your guards. Him and Whitehair can mash on the inside. I think Mustipher showed enough that he can be your starting center. I just don't like the idea of Bobby Massey and Charles Leno as your starting tackles, which is why I think going after a guy like a Christian Darrisaw makes a lot of sense for the Chicago Bears. I just think it's too good of an opportunity to pass up. There's a lot of talented tackles in this class. I like Darrisaw a lot. I think he's someone you could realistically try and get. You're not going to get Penei Sewell, for example, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Darrisaw is my number 2 draft target for the Chicago Bears in 2021. So what's the bigger need? Quarterback, O-line. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Type QB, type O-line. I want to hear what your thoughts are on this one. I think it's quarterback because without a quarterback, nothing else matters in my opinion. But if you guys think differently, you guys can let me know. Now get going with our sports betting partners, Bet Rivers at chatsports.com/betil or chatsports.com/betin. Get going over there because there is still money to be made despite football season being over. You can bet on the NBA, you can bet on baseball once that gets going. Also, you can do some futures bets as well. NFC North odds are out. We'll take a look here. Packers -300 to win it again. No surprise there. Vikings +375. Don't hate the Bears' value at +500. Maybe you get in now, make some money, and the Bears swing big and get a quarterback. Those odds increase. Get in while the value is still there. What does +500 mean? You put down $10, you're going to win $50 if they win the division. For the Vikings, +375. Put down $10, you're going to win $37.50. For the Vikings, for the Lions, put in $10, you're going to win $250. That is the math on how that works. For those of you who did not know, chatsports.com/betil BetIN for you Indiana folks, chatsports.com/BetIL for you Illinois folks. Make some money with Bet Rivers all off season long. Let's stick with the O-line here. Alijah Vera-Tucker out of USC. Interesting player here because he projects more as a guard, and he played guard throughout college until this year. He slid over to left tackle and played pretty damn well, which surprised a lot of draft analysts. I think he's worth a try at tackle, probably right tackle, probably not left tackle. Most likely he's a guard at the next level, but I would explore him at tackle, and at the very least, I think he can be a starting guard in the NFL. I think he's worthy to take at 20. Maybe you trade back, you get him later in the 20s as well. That could be an option because there are a lot of offensive line targets in this class. Here are some of the names that you could get at offensive line that we haven't even mentioned yet. Liam Eichenberg out of Notre Dame, local kid, you guys know him. Tevin Jenkins out of Oklahoma State. I think he's probably a round one guy. Samuel Cosme, Jackson Carman, they're fringe round one, round two, as is Jalen Mayfield, but there's a lot of offensive line talent in this draft. I didn't mention Penei Sewell and Rashawn Slater. I think they're just too talented. You're not going to be able to get these guys, but these are some of the players you could target if you are the Chicago Bears. Just to kind of round out this thought, just before we move to a couple more players here. If I'm not clear, let me be clear now. Quarterback, O-line are the top two priorities. Until that's handled, not much else matters. Now, if you want to take care of Allen Robinson, that's fine. He's the one exception. Otherwise, QB, offensive line. Offensive line, QB. Get it done. Take care of it. Even if it's just one tackle, you're probably fine because it's the interior. But you just can't roll with the same tackles that you've had over the past couple of years. It's just not going to get it done at a good enough level. I think that is obvious, and I think that's going to continue to be the case moving forward. Want to remind you guys, follow me on Twitter at HGramNFL. I'm going to keep begging for the Bears to get offensive linemen over there as well. You can tweet me your thoughts at HGramNFL throughout the offseason because we're going to keep you up to date on everything surrounding the Chicago Bears. Okay, a couple more players here. How about Rashod Bateman, the wide receiver out of Minnesota? You guys in Big Ten country have probably watched him a little bit. The reason I mention him is it's unclear what's going to happen with Allen Robinson now. I'm team sign AR. You guys know how I feel about that. But I do think stylistically, Bateman is a very similar type of player to Allen Robinson. Big, physical, can really high point the football, can get downfield, can run the intermediate routes. I think this is a similar type of player to Allen Robinson, a player that I've watched quite a bit and played really well in 2019. I kind of combined the last 2 years because he only played a few games this year before opting out. He's been extremely productive for the Golden Gophers over the past 18 games, almost 1,700 yards. That's just under 100 yards per game, 13 touchdowns. He's got 96 catches. I like Rashod Bateman quite a bit, and I think he's a player that could, if you God forbid, lose Allen Robinson, he's at least a guy who can step in my opinion, and give you a chance to at least not be too bad at outside receiver along with Darnell Mooney. Hashtag SignAR, going to keep it going. Spam the comments on that one, both on here and on social media. I want Allen Robinson to be here long term. I think most of you guys do as well. So hashtag SignAR. Let's keep the movement going here on Chicago Bears. Now, also, let's keep the subscribers numbers going up because we're plugging out more videos for you guys. They're 100% free. We're almost at 23,000 subs. We're like 600 or 700 away. Hit that big red button. The link is down below. It's youtube.com/BearsNow. If you want more draft videos, got to subscribe to justify us doing them. Okay, one more guy. Got to fit a defensive player in here. We'll probably do a separate video of specifically offensive guys and specifically defensive guys. It's a long offseason, so we'll do it all here on the channel. That's why you should subscribe. J.C. Horn, South Carolina, the cornerback. I think the only scenario in going corner in round one is if you cut Kyle Fuller, which could happen because it would save the Bears $14 million if they were to do so. I think J.C. Horn at number 20 is proper range for him. I don't think he'll be one of the top two corners off the board. Patrick Surtain and the kid Caleb Farley out of Virginia Tech, I think they're top 12, top 15 guys. I think Horn at 20, though, is pretty good value for him, pretty around the range of what makes sense for him. really productive in just 7 games this year. 2 picks, 6 pass breakups for South Carolina. He can play some nickel, can play some outside for you. I think outside corner makes more sense for him. That's maximizing his ability. I like Horn. It's a pretty good corner class as well. If you have to cut Kyle Fuller, or hell, maybe he's involved in a trade for a quarterback, who knows? I think that would only happen if it's Deshaun Watson. Then maybe J.C. Horn could be a guy for the Bears. So, we'll end on this question. Who should the Bears draft in round 1? I just gave you 5 names. There's certainly a lot more players that could make some sense. I want to hear from you guys. We're always trying to get your answers, be interactive in the chat. So let me know, who should the Bears draft in the first round?